Welcome to 5 by 5 a Retrotopia podcast in which we count down our top 5 lists on any given topic we decide. It is a perfect plundering of a podcast portraying parts of our pals' performances pertaining to particularly perplexing pontifications.
Today's list will count down our top 5 meaningful games from our childhood.
In the 5 by 5.
Start.
All right, we want to thank you for listening to us and for the support we received over the last few months.
If you want to join in the conversation, you can find us and access our Discord at linktree/retrotopia. That's linktr.ee/retrotopia.
And as Sam mentioned, we will discuss our most meaningful games today. But before we get into it, I just want to acknowledge that this top 5 list idea was pretty much copied straight from Retro Hangover's The Flight. They do it so well, there isn't really any room for improvement. We're going to be using the same back and forth style they do, and because of that, we are considering renaming this the Schmorkesfein because it's elegantly cultured.
I'm sampling a flight of gluten-free German lagers with a French wine pairing. It's called a Schmorkeswein, and it's elegantly cultural.
Right. Today's theme is just some games that we've held as meaningful ones in our gaming journey.
And without further ado, let us get on to number 5.
5.
All right. And I guess I'm kicking this off. So my number 5 is Civilization 2 for the, I played it on PC. I don't know if it was a Mac game too. But this was the first, I guess you could consider this a turn-based strategy game, but this was the first real turn-based strategy game that I ever played. And also the historical information that they put into it and for context and all the discoveries you could make really taught me a lot about the progression of ancient civilizations and got me interested in history. It was actually my dad's game, but I think I must have played it more than he did because I just remember as soon as he loaded it, I just took off with it. And it was, of course, as a kid, when you play a game, you want to go tell all your friends about it. And no one played this except for me. So I was on my own on this one. So I don't really have like a ton of real, like meaningful stories that go with it. It was just one of the first.
Just
And
one of those games that you
yeah,
have a lot of memories of.
definitely. And one of my favorite genres currently. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you said it taught you, kind of the history of the world there, where the Germans built the pyramids and the
yeah,
Great Wall of United States, right?
the Great Wall of the United States and the Great Statue of Liberty of Mongolia.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's always the funniest part of civilization is, you're hoarding all the world wonders there.
Yeah, you can build pretty much whichever one you want, regardless of like what civilization you picked. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. No, that's pretty great. I actually played this game a lot when I was young too. As I really like the Civilization series, and I'm currently hung up on 6.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
I know Civ 2 was on some consoles as well a little bit later, and I think where I started playing it until I finally got a PC copy somewhere like 10 years after it was released.
I'd love to try to find a way to play it again. It's kind of, like lost to the old hardware of time. So
Yeah, it's one of those games that was great, but it really has been outdone by its sequels, so it kind of makes it irrelevant. But I definitely would
yeah,
love to go back and try it again.
yeah, definitely holds a soft spot for me.
All right. My number 5 is actually it's going to be the Final Fantasy series, but I'm going to land on one game at the end for a reason. But Final Fantasy 4 or Final Fantasy 2 on the Super Nintendo was the one that got me hooked on JRPGs. Then Final Fantasy 6 just kind of solidified that love of Final Fantasy. But it's Final Fantasy 7 I'm actually going to name on this one, and it kind of was a game I was playing when I was being bounced between my parents' house after their divorce. So every 2 weeks, I'd end up going to another parent's house, and of course, both of them moved away from my childhood home. And being a military kid, moving was kind of one of my big you know life things. Is always moving every 3 years. So I really got into Final Fantasy VII because, of course, my parents were bitching about each other, and I'm bouncing back and forth, and things aren't going great at home. So this was kind of the game I fell into. And after my brother kind of left for college, it was pretty much me in Final Fantasy VII for pretty much a good year because it was the only game I could afford. So I played it through and through many times.
Yeah, there's definitely something to say about um, a game being there for you at a certain time and place. Games are kind of an escape for us sometimes, and
Yeah,
that's
it could have
yeah,
been any
it
game
could have
at
yeah.
that time, but it just happened to be Final Fantasy VII. So that's why I really like Final Fantasy VII. That's why I put it near the top of my list of all-time great Final Fantasy games.
I understand that, like nowadays if you play the original, it's like, I mean, it's got its flaws, but it still is like one of those specific time and place games that, I mean, I'm a couple years younger than you, but I also appreciate Final Fantasy VII for the escape that it gave me at certain points in my life. So
Yeah,
that's a good one.
exactly. All right, well, let's move on to number 4, shall we?
Yes.
4,
All right, my number 4 is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And why this game is important to me is because the Sega Genesis was the first console that I owned that was like my thing. Um, we had an NES when I was little, but it was like, it was kind of just something to goof around with, and I think we ended up getting trading it up basically for the Genesis, and then Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was one of my first games that I actually really got into and could get pretty far in. So I don't really have any other like anecdotes really, except that the split screen was pretty crazy. I don't know if well, you didn't play it, but like if any of the listeners played Sonic 2 and got into that like early kind of rudimentary split screen multiplayer that it had, um, I think this is the only video game that I've ever seen my mom play aside from like Wii Bowling.
Oh man, that's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, and
I've
they're
seen my
really
mom
bad at
play
it.
Mario Kart 8, but it was because she was trying to form a connection with my son.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's the only video game she ever picked up. And if you've ever seen like I'm gonna give my mom's age away here, but let's just say slightly older than me, woman pick up a controller for the first time, staring at it like it's made of Egyptian hieroglyphics or whatever. It
Yeah.
was quite funny to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I just that's a good memory of Sonic 2, I guess. So,
Yeah, well, getting your first console and everything like that. I mean, you got to start somewhere with your hobby, and that seems to be the spot. Probably, I'm not going to speak for you, but it just sounds like it's a spot where you kind of really fell in love with it.
yeah, it was really the first time I remembered playing a game and actually like sitting down and trying to get better at it, every time that I sat down for a little session. So,
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
yeah.
All right, so my number 4 is not going to be a huge surprise. It's just none of these games are rare games. It's just games that I have meaningful memories, and this one is Super Mario Brothers for the Nintendo. And it was pretty much my introduction to the NES and kind of video games as a hobby. So, like you said earlier, I'm slightly older than you, just like by a month or two. So I was 5 when this came out in 1985, and I've been playing on Atari since I can remember, and it's always been on a black and white TV. So you play Missile Command, you play Asteroids, you play all those games, always in black and white. And I never thought video games came in color. And then I was over at a babysitter's house, and she had a Nintendo, and she let us take turns.
Nice.
And yeah, this thing just blew my mind. Of course, the first thing I did is when you run, I ran into the Goomba at the very beginning because I didn't know jumping was a thing.
He is a bastard.
Oh, he is a murderer. And then the other one was every time I did jump after learning how to do it, I'd always flip my hands in the air, and that's carried over to me in racing games as I'll lean into the turns as I play them. So, so yeah, so that's basically it. And Super Mario Brothers was the game that got me hooked on all video games.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely like Super Mario Brothers was probably the first game I played too, although I was probably a little too young to really get into it. And then like I think I've mentioned this on the 1943 episode that like 1943 is another like potentially one of the first video games I ever played, which is a really odd one.
Yeah,
But I have a similar experience with like the babysitter having an NES. Like the sitter that I went to had an NES, and I think we played a bunch of Super Mario 3, and so that's where that game holds like kind of a special spot for me.
oh yeah, Super Mario Brothers 3 for me was watching the movie The Wizard,
Oh yeah,
and right at the end it was like Super Mario Brothers 3, and all of a sudden I was just like glued to the screen.
I mean you could play it with the Power Glove, so
Oh my
uh,
god, my brother he had a paper route and he got a Power Glove with this contest they had with all these points. So he had the Power Glove, and what a piece of shit.
yeah.
Oh man, like you had this little thing you had to put up on the TV to make 3 points for it to track, and you hold your arm out and eventually just take it off and use it like a normal controller.
I thought you were gonna say just take it off and beat the shit out of your Nintendo with it out of frustration.
Hey, yeah, probably. At
Yeah.
one point, that thing got so old that we just cut the cord off and then we went outside and played with it. So thank
Oh
you,
yeah.
Nintendo, for teaching us the value of being outside.
There you go.
Time for number 3.
Number 3.
3,
All right, for my number 3, I am heading back to the computer world and going with Warcraft 2. Um, this I think was one of the first, along with Civ 2. Lots of twos. Um, I played. Oh wow, yeah! I just realized this. My 3 so far have been sequels of the original games.
Yeah, play an original.
Like, play an original. Come on. But this was one of the first computer games I played extensively, and one of my first, along with Command and Conquer, one of my first real time strategy games, which is another genre that I quite enjoy. Um, just I mean the time. Let's set the time here. It was mid to just solidly mid 90s, I would say, right? So like 97 at the latest when this was like really in its heyday, I think. And um we would like my dad at least would do the person to person modem connection, like chew up the phone line and play online.
Oh yeah, the LAN connections.
Yeah, and it was so that was a memory that I had of this game, and then specifically a fun one. Like some of my best memories of this game don't involve me playing it. It's like my dad playing it. But I remember a New Year's where like they had some friends over, and I got to like have a friend from school over for New Year's, and there was my dad's friend brought his whole like PC like over to the house and sat in a different room at a different desk upstairs, and then they connected on the local network and were playing, and it was like my friend and I were like going like spying on screens and like selling information. So and then I would play through the campaigns. I would do like map editor when I wanted to just kind of like fuck around with it. And this also kind of got me a little bit more into realizing that I love, fantasy and science fiction and all that kind of stuff. So I would read the manuals and learn everything I could about the different like nations and what colors the human or orcs, you could have the red, they all had like different colors or whatever, but each of those was like a different faction, and all that stuff is just cool. So
No, no, absolutely. I don't know what it is about Warcraft, but out of like all the RTSs of that time, Warcraft was the one I didn't like and I've never played it.
really, we
Yeah,
gotta
it
fix
just
that.
one of those things like so I guess like all the I wouldn't call them the popular kids because back then the popular kids weren't playing video games, but
No.
the video game nerds were all talking about Warcraft, and of course, I was a frumpy little teenager, so I was like, "Yeah, don't want to play what everybody likes." So
Mm.
I just kind of never actually got into it, never played it. So
Oh
someday,
man. Yeah, we got to get you to play that. It's if you want to play Warcraft 2, and I think original Warcraft is on there too, but I haven't played a whole lot of Warcraft 1. You have to go on a gaming service called GOG, and it's on there.
yeah, good old games.
Good old games. Is that really what it stands for?
Yes.
Okay. Well, um, until it was released on GOG, and you can only play it on PC, you can't play it on Mac. It's really difficult to like find and emulate, but that's a good resource and a good way to play it, and all of its expansions and extra maps and all that shit. So
Oh,
good
yeah,
stuff.
I got a bunch of GOG games.
Yeah, that's a cool little system.
It is. It's a nice way to get some games that kind of disappeared. Like, you remember King's Quest, Police Quest, and Space Quest?
Yes, I
All
don't
those
think I
are
ever
on.
played those, but
Yeah,
I
all
know
those are
of
on
them.
GOG. Those are
Yeah,
good games,
yeah, good
but
stuff.
never heard it called GOG.
Oh,
Oh, it's
I don't
just.
know. I've just like heard of it within the last year. So I was
Oh,
like, I don't,
seriously? Oh
yeah.
man, I've been. If you hook up your Prime, like Amazon Prime account, if you have one to Twitch, Twitch will give you free games like once a week, and then half those games go through good old games there.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Well,
so it's just another avenue. That Epic Games, yeah, those are basically my entire libraries are built up of never paying a dollar for anything.
damn, I am underutilizing my Prime account.
You absolutely are. Jeff Bezos would roll in his grave if he was dead.
Yeah, roll over in his spaceship or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he'll never die. He's got the immortality chip.
Yeah.
Got it 2 days with Prime shipping. All right, my number 4 is the classic game NHL 1994 or NHL 94 for the SNES. And it is important because it is the last multiplayer game, co op or otherwise, that me and my brother ever played. And this game almost broke us. Now, we have a contentious kind of a relationship to begin with. Like, we're not enemies, but, we live kind of different lives. We have different interests. We never seem to have the same sense of humor and stuff like that. But back in the day, we would play NHL 94. And of course, I was a Toronto fan. He's a Montreal fan. Back then, he's a dirty Ottawa fan now, but that's neither here nor there.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Uh, so, anyways, we would play it. And when we played the game, we were pretty much evenly matched. But when the other person would score, anytime they cheered, you'd get pissed off at them.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, shut up, stop gloating, all that kind of childish stuff because we were children back then. And so this kept going on for so long. And it got to the point where we both, just to stop like fighting, would sit there stone faced and we were no longer having any fun. So here we are, these two kids playing this NHL game, and we might as well be in church. We're so quiet. So we just decided after that one day that, the final blow up, I guess you can call it, that we just decided was over. Like, we just never since then have played a co op or competitive or any sort of game that requires two people to sit in the same room or even over the internet.
That's nuts. We got to get you on Animal Crossing or something.
Why, for the Zen?
Yeah, just like a fun, relaxing experience. You and your brother can just visit each other's islands and
Oh, yeah. No, that we would just burn the place to the ground.
oh,
Oh,
you'd be
it just,
chopping down all of his trees and like putting pitfall seeds everywhere.
yeah, it's just like, follow him on social media to downvote his posts, not to look at them.
It's like this is such a um just like a classic in the sports games realm. So much so that they made an NHL 94 rewind based on this engine, right? Where they
Yeah.
imported the current, I mean, as of a couple years ago, I think.
I think it
Current
was last
players.
year's game, that or 22.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty recent one. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I have not played that version, but I kind of want to because
I gave it a quick go. It was on Game Pass there for a bit, so I
yeah,
hopped in and it holds up. I like the 94,
that's awesome.
95 era NHL games.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about that, I kind of want to get it myself, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, it has Ovi.
Yeah, he's actually the little cover guy on the icon, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
It's like a
It's
little
all done in 16-bit.
pixelated Ovechkin. It's pretty cool.
But I got to say, last word on this, and I think, because of this, my brother is still pissed at me about erasing his Final Fantasy 2 and SimCity save files because he's brought that up again. All right, on to number 2.
2,
All right, here we're getting down to the really important ones. My number 2 is Zelda Ocarina of Time. I think at this point, I think this game came out in 98. So at this point, I'm about 11 years old, coming into my own as someone who is kind of following gaming news at the time, and getting EGM and Game Informer and stuff like that. And this game was in all the magazines before it came out, and it was like the hype was real. Surrounding this game as it was coming out in the holiday season. Um, when I got it, I think it took me a while, but this was definitely one of the first games that I beat. Um, just fair and square, and really helped me gain more confidence as, like someone who might, enjoy this hobby a little bit more, actually like get something out of it, or, not that I'm a great video gamer. I'm okay, but like this was one of those that I actually had a good time with and played through to completion.
Yeah,
Um,
you just played it again recently, didn't you?
I did. I played it on 3DS, and it's awesome. Um, uh, and just like a story that I have about this game is that copies at the time, if anyone was around for this time, could remember that copies of this game were sold out everywhere, and they had brought back the gold cartridge. So Zelda and Zelda 2 on the NES have those like really nice gold cartridges, and they're pretty rare, I think. And then for the Super Nintendo, they didn't do one for Link to the Past, so that was like this huge deal. Like, first 3D Zelda game, it looks incredible. It's, you know, graphics look great. And then it's gonna have this limited edition gold cartridge. And I didn't care so much about the gold cartridge. I just wanted to play this game. But my parents were kind of like tempering my expectations, like, hey, we know you want this for Christmas, but just so you know, it's sold out like everywhere. And so I was like, yeah, I get it. And um, we had opened all the presents on Christmas Day, and then they actually like hid it, and I opened it last because I thought we were all
Sneaky
done.
bastards.
Yeah, and I think they gave me like the strategy guide, and I was thinking like I appreciated it. I was like, hey, cool, like the game, yeah, I'll get the game when I can or whatever, but like this book is cool. It's got like all the pictures, and I could read all about it and stuff. And then they pulled it out, so that was awesome. But then I had to go to fucking church, so that was
Oh,
the longest Catholic Christmas mass ever, like sitting there knowing that Zelda was at home waiting for me.
hey, father, hurry it up. Let's go.
Yeah, come on, we know.
I have to save Hyrule Kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That had to be the worst, being
It
a
was.
kid there and you get the thing you want the most for Christmas, and it's like, nah, you can't play it right now. It's like, I don't want to go to church. Go to hell, mom.
Yeah, we would always go to church like right after presents. It was like, oh.
They should have saved it for after church.
Yeah. Oh,
Or
well.
carved out a Bible and put the game inside the Bible, so when you open it up to your hymn or your passage there, you would find the copy of the game and you'd scream in joy in
Oh
the middle
god.
of church.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to give a present. Like, we have to.
Desecrate a Bible, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
What do you
No,
got for you?
that's a great story. I have a like kind of a similar story with the Super Nintendo itself,
Yeah.
but I didn't actually put that on my list, so I'm gonna save that one for another day.
Yeah, keep that one in the pocket.
Or maybe I'll tell it after we're done the list there as just kind of a honorable mention, but we'll see how it feels because my number, actually, are you done? I kind of
No,
cut
I
you
yeah,
off.
I'm done. You go
Okay.
ahead. You're number 2.
All right, just grab the tissues there, buddy. It's going to be okay. We're almost done. All right, so my number 2 is actually a game I've forgotten about until my mom brought it up literally like a month ago, and might actually be the game that inspired this idea for this 5x5 or Smorgasfine. Um, it is called Dark Castle. Was released kind of on the Mac, the Amiga, the Apple IGS, the Atari ST, MS DOS, Genesis, Commodore 64, and the CDI in 1986. Yeah, it is an old game, and I can't remember very much about it. So I actually have like the wiki open. I've been kind of perusing it for the last few minutes here because I was just trying to figure out what it was about.
Yeah.
But one of the notable things I noticed is it's actually credited as possibly the first game to use the WASD keys and the mouse for control, which is
Oh,
now a
interesting.
staple, yeah, in first
Yeah.
person shooters. But
Yeah, for sure.
plot of this game is when the evil Black Knight terrorizes the town people, Prince Duncan decides to topple his throne, but in order to do that, he must travel to the 4 sections of the castle: Fireball, Shield, Trouble, and Black Knight. After collecting the Fireball and Shield, Duncan makes his way to the Black Knight's throne room, where he topples the Black Knight's throne, and the Black Knight stands up, shaking his fist, as Gargoyle takes Duncan to Trouble 3.
Hmm.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I the reason this game has memories for me and that kind of came flooding back is whenever I had to go with my mom to her office or her like her work, and this is back in the 80s,
Hmm.
like this game was brand new. So I'm pretty young. I'm 6, 7 years old. I'm stuck in this office, and normally offices didn't have computers, but my mom, I found out, is actually a computer programmer by education, even though she ended up being an executive assistant for her career. So,
Hmm.
anyways, I digress. Back to the story. So I go into her office and she has this computer and she pulls out the 5.5 inch floppy disk and she pops it in. And this is the game I had to play. This is the game that distracted me for like the 2, 3 hours I was stuck in her office for.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I always remembered this game. I always remembered it as, kind of the one I went and played, but I didn't remember its name. I didn't really remember much about what it looked like. I just remembered that you would walk, throw rocks, and stuff like that. And I just remember it being the only time I was kind of happy to go to, or I was actually excited to go to my mom's office because I got to play it again.
Yeah,
So yeah,
if there was something like that waiting for me at my mom's office when I was little, I'd be stoked. But
yeah. Well, she
alas,
brought
there
it
was
back
not.
up again. Like I went over to her house for dinner a couple of weeks ago, and she brought it back up again, and we sat there like, "Do you remember the game Dark Castle?" I'm like, "Absolutely not, Mom." And yeah, she explained it to me, and then when I got home, she'd emailed me a link about it, and then all of a sudden, it just like all came flooding back.
That's so cool. Is there any
Yeah.
way to play this? I wanna know. Dark
If
Castle.
I can find a copy, I will let you know.
There's
But
got to be a way to. Oh wow, this game looks cool.
oh yeah, right?
Kind of
Like
looks almost like Castlevania before Castlevania. There's like a screenshot of like a guy standing. You can see his back, and he's like facing a door. Kind of reminds me of that like classic first image in every Castlevania game of like you walking up to the castle gates or whatever.
yeah,
It
oh,
looks cool.
exactly. Oh man, on the website I go to, playclassic.game, it's not on there, which is rare because that usually has a bunch of games you can't find anymore.
Oh damn.
I'll
Well,
search around for it.
yeah, there's got to be a way.
All right. Well, one day we'll find out. But for now, are we ready for number 1?
One.
All right, my number one. I don't know if it's going to be a surprise to anyone, but my number one are the Pokemon games, Gen 1, Red, Blue, and Yellow. Um, this is a game that I think was one of my first RPG experiences. I think either around this time or at the same time, I also had Final Fantasy Legend 2 for the Game Boy, and I was okay at it. I don't think I ever got all that far in it, but it was my first turn-based RPG experience. But Pokemon was the one that really clicked with me and allowed me to kind of learn that system in a way that I really didn't engage with before. Um, I got it shortly after it came out as an early Christmas present, so that was kind of cool.
Right before church.
It wasn't before church, but it was like around Thanksgiving, so I'm pretty sure that I had to like sit through some like Thanksgiving dinners and stuff when I really wanted to be playing Pokemon. Um, it was yeah, it was great. I got red version and the Nintendo Power Player's Guide, which
Hoorah.
I think I mean we wore the cover off of the thing. Between that and I've committed it to memory. I'm playing blue version right now as a just kind of a refresher, and we're going to be doing an episode up on Pokemon at some point. Um, it's like it's crazy. I remember even for the most obscure Pokemon, I'll remember when they evolve. You know when to stop them from evolving, so you can get those like better moves early on, and I tend to remember stuff like when they learn their moves and where the hidden items are. It's like it's crazy. This is the game that I can play over and over and over again and still enjoy it. And I think when I first got it, you know how when your Pokemon is poisoned outside of battle, it does that little like screen glitch or like a
Yeah.
little stutter. I I was mortified because I thought for sure my game was broken, and I was like, no. um,
Ma-
it took me a while to figure out that when you're poisoned, your screen does that little glitchy thing.
Oh, it's such a trope in RPGs.
It
Like
is.
I'm playing Breath of Fire right now, and
Hmm.
it does the same thing. That little judder, like pixelization of your screen there, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was always there.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like obviously then this is one of my first RPG experiences, so that language of RPGs was just not part of my experience, and so I was
Crazy.
like, "Fuck, my new game is broken."
Throw the whole thing out,
Yeah.
not realizing. Oh man. No, I actually have Pokemon Yellow story as well. Is I bought that and I was kind of like I really love the anime. Okay, like or not the anime, but the TV show. I guess it
Hmm.
is anime. Um, and I really like that relationship between Pikachu and Ash there. So when the yellow version came out, that was the one I went with, and I was just about to start college, and I would actually sit between classes. I'd go find a quiet place, and that's what I'd play all day. Is just Pokemon Yellow. And then when I went off to the military a year later, after failing college, anyways, when I went to
Because
the
you were playing too
military,
much Pokemon.
yeah, pretty much. But um, as a way to kind of relax at night because we were kind of stuck in our barracks. Pokemon Yellow was the game I would just sit and stare out the window and play Pokemon.
Yeah.
It was yeah, it was a fun game, and to date, it's still the only generation of Pokemon I've ever played because for some reason I just never got into the series after this.
Which is kind of crazy because you liked it, right?
Yeah, I loved it. It
Oh.
just like I said, I never picked it up, and I tried to play Arceus there recently, and it just didn't hit.
Oh, that's completely different. You got to play Gen 2. We'll talk. We're
Yeah,
going to do
you
gold
can
and silver and
you're gonna hold my head in the toilet and force me to play it.
yep.
Come on, nerd. Wait, not nerd. All right. Anything else on Pokemon? Because I know you could go on this topic for hours.
Yeah, no, I'm good. That's Pokemon is my jam.
There you go. So yeah, hint by the way, upcoming episode will be a Pokemon game.
Yep.
Wait out for that. I think it's in the summer sometime. All right. So my number one game is Half Life, the original Half Life, and this is probably the first game I played on a PC I owned myself. So I just kind of learned or not learned, sorry. I just finished my basic training and was home for like a weekend, and my brother has just finished college. So he gave me his computer he used in college because he's into programming and stuff like that, and he's damn good at it. Um, Giving me his computer so he could buy a new one when he moved here to Ottawa, Ontario. Uh,
And became a Senators fan.
yeah, yeah, that's where he kind of fell off. But this kind of allowed me to basically play video games for the first time. So Half-Life was the first game I bought, and of course, the computer really wasn't powerful enough because my brother just used it for like text editing. So first thing I did is ran off to a store, took out a stupidly high loan at a stupid interest rate because I didn't know any better, and I upgraded the computer.
There you go.
And yeah, so I got back with this new highly expensive computer and played the crap out of Half-Life for literally months and months at a time, and it was just I loved it.
Yeah.
So
This is Half-Life 1 specifically, right?
yes, the
Yeah.
original, not the orange box, not the big Wampin collection, the
Yeah.
original in a box with the CD code game before Steam
Yeah.
even existed.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's Half-Life 1 or 2, but I definitely have memories of playing this game too. Just like the I just remember like running around with a crowbar and trying to like use the vents to like get from room to room, and those stupid little like bug things that jump
Yeah,
out at you
the
and stuff.
little face suckers.
Those little fuckers.
Yeah,
We got to
those things
cover a
are fun.
Half-Life game too. Those are so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd have to play this again anyway, so I might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
But I actually wrote a story here on my notes. What I was an electronics technician. I was an avionics technician in the military. So we had this electronics course, and one of my roommates uh, on this course that we're doing to learn how to fix and handle electric circuit boards decided to put his whole new computer build, which he bought, onto a wool blanket, and it fried every board. His
Oh
graphics
no.
card, his sound card, his motherboard, his CPU, everything, and he couldn't get it refunded because he damaged it himself.
Oh fuck.
Oh yeah, his entire like paycheck spent on this computer to upgrade, and the genius on an electronics course responsible for fixing $1 million aircrafts um, fried his entire new computer.
So so you put it on a wool blanket. So like what did like a static shock
Yeah, well,
ran through?
wool is pretty notorious for
Oh yeah.
static there, and of course, we are taught to ground ourselves when we work on electronics. And of course, he didn't do that. He was sitting on the wool blanket, and not his smartest move.
Bzz.
Yeah, great times though, great times.
Awesome.
Oh man, I just thought of another game, and that's actually maybe I'll save that one for one of our Discord users there, a guy who does things. Me and him were on the same training course in Kingston, Ontario, and we played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 religiously.
Ooh, that is a good one. I was
So
actually
maybe we'll
we were just scrolling through Amazon Prime or whatever, like whatever the Amazon streaming service is over the
Prime.
weekend. Yeah, Prime or whatever. And there's at least in the US, I don't know about Canada, but there is like that Tony Hawk Pro Skater documentary. It's like, I think it's called I'm a Superman or something, like the Goldfinger song.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I saved that. I got to watch that. That game is awesome. Obviously.
Yeah, so I looked into it, like why our media varies so vastly between the United States and Canada, and it's pretty obvious. It's obviously who holds the right to stream it. Like we don't have
Yeah.
Hulu up here, so if Hulu owns the rights, we don't get it, or it'll be plugged onto Disney Plus, who owns Hulu. But we also have a streaming service called Crave TV here, and they
Yep.
hoard everything they can get their greedy little hands on. So they got HBO Plus as an add-on to their already crappy service, which only streams at 720p.
Oh,
And yeah, and they lock it behind. You have to get their streaming service, and I think you have to get another tier of their streaming service, which adds movies, and then you get HBO Plus for more money.
but
So
that's
it's
the only way that you can get HBO in Canada is through
well,
Crave.
only way you can get it if you pay for it.
Well, right. Yeah.
But yeah, and then yeah, of course, VPN, like what Netflix did with kind of blocking VPN for virtual tourism. There, it's made it harder, but not impossible. Anyways, Crave TV sucks, but they
Yeah.
have everything. That's where you get your Letterkenny and your Shoresy.
Yeah. We got that on Hulu.
Yeah, but we get it first.
Yes,
Boom.
you do. Yes, you do.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
that's all 10 items there. That's our most meaningful games to us. So a little bit of memories. Now you got to get to know us better.
Yeah, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to talk about your most meaningful game, you can join us on our Discord. Again, you can find that link at linktree./Retrotopia. So I'll spell that out: linktr.ee/Retrotopia.
I didn't realize I put that in the notes twice. Now you have to join.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for listening on this inaugural episode of 5x5 or Smorgasvine. If we decide to change to that, we're going to decide after we're done recording. We hope you can join us here next week for episode 22, Shining Force for the Sega Genesis.
Yep. And until then, come up with a catchphrase.
Awesome.